Horizon just wants to reaction. This is US Navy next gen attack submarine is a nightmare for China by the channel Task and Purpose. Another submarine from US? Okay. Usually things like this is like advanced in planning. So this is like planning stages, or like it's like about done or something. I don't know. But yeah, new submarine, right? I mean, all this for like Japan Sea, China Sea, whatever you call it, right? Taiwan issue, if it rises, this is all preparation for that, right? I'm guessing. So yeah, what is it about this submarine that is a nightmare for China? What is it, like stealthy or something, right? Like how the unsubscribed podcast clip I watched where they're talking about it. Is it something like that? I highly doubt that, right? We wouldn't be here watching the video if that was the case, right? Something like that must be top secret. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Let's do it. Remember, if you like my reaction, don't forget to subscribe so that way I know which I will react to more. Check out the reaction, there's a link in the description. Check out the end cards, I guess, and let's do it.
Fast, stealthy, and deadly. Feast your eyes on America's next generation Block 5 Virginia-class nuclear fast attack submarine. Its new upgrades will make it the most advanced in America's subsurface fleet. It's critical to protecting the Western Pacific region. But the Pentagon recently slashed the production rate of the US Virginia class from 2 per year down to just 1. This triggered major backlash within the halls of Congress, because the US Navy's own estimates say that US shipyards need to produce at least 2 Virginia class attack subs per year to deter future threats. Today, we're going to find out what makes the Virginia class so deadly, what role it plays in the Navy's broader strategy, and why the Pentagon is cutting this asset in half.
Okay, what is happening, man? The US is making, I mean, R&D takes a lot of money than actually building it. I mean, kinda, right? So they built this, and now actually building stages, they like cut off, like F-22 had the similar thing, but at least I understood F-22 thing, like, why do you need F-22 in like Middle East? Like, you're not going against some major power like China, right? But now they need F-22 or something like that, next generation air dominance. With the submarine thing, like, threat is real, right? This is not as 20 years ago. Now, like, Taiwan thing feels like a bit strong, right? I've seen comments, people saying like, oh, okay, China is like strategic partner, this is not going to happen, obviously, right? That's the element there. But enough leak and, let's just say covert information out there that's, like, linking in that direction, like the conflict might happen, and that's enough for people to be worried about, right? If there is like tangible information like that floating out there, right, from intelligence channels and things like that. That's why they've been like ramping up. US has been ramping up all these things in like how Marines are like thinking different strategy. This is all for Taiwan thing, right? So if they actually develop this submarine, they decided to make 2 a year, they need that. Why slash it? I don't get it. Like, why you go all the way there and like at the last second you decide like, okay, let's make half of it or something.
Just don't be like that sailor in the Indian Navy who accidentally left a hatch open and
No, someone left a hatch open and crippled India's 2.9 billion submarine. Only in India. He just went outside the submarine to, I guess, hang his clothes to dry or something. He probably made some kind of like a what is it called, clothesline or something, wherever you hang your clothes, basically, right? And he's just like, oh, okay, I'm gonna hang this out. It's all right. And before there you go, water got in. Only in India.
deadline their $3 billion sub for a year. Guys, there's easier ways to get out of an enlistment. The first thing you need to know is that there are 2 different types of combat submarines in the
Probably went out for a smoke. Like, oh man, I just like, this is too much, man. This job is like 8 hours. Like, it's been 1 hour already. Let's just go out for a smoke. There you go.
Navy. You've got your ballistic subs, whose main job it is to creep around with nuclear missiles ready to fire a second strike. Then, the second type is the fast attack submarine, which is a multi-domain asset that is able to perform a broad spectrum of naval roles. That's what my doctor said, is I'm on the broad spectrum. God forbid, if there was a conflict in the South China Sea, one of the first things that would happen is attack submarines would swoop in at a brisk 35 knots and drop off special forces to strike enemy harbors by placing limpet mines directly onto ships, or insert on shore to collect intelligence on or sabotage long-range missile launchers. This is why I don't trust water. You never know what's lurking down there. Take a look at the SEAL
I think the enemy would know you're coming because you'd hear the leather screeching noises every time they walk. There you go, that's their coming.
Team vehicle here. It can deploy an elite team of 4 SEALs on shore, According to the US military website, this class of submarine has a reconfigurable torpedo room that can accommodate a large number of special forces and all of their equipment for prolonged deployments and future off-board payloads, large lock-in and lock-out chambers for divers. This is a key piece of the strategic puzzle that we rarely hear about in the Pacific, because if you don't get eyes on or knock out those mobile missile launchers, they're going to hit your surface fleet. If you're looking for that Metal Gear Solid infiltration, the Virginia class is where it's at. China's working to counter American fast attack submarines with a project dubbed the Great Underwater Wall in the media. But before we get into that, did you know that Armasight is one of the very few night vision and thermal brands out there that can say they're—
It better not be an actual wall. I hope they mean just as a reference, something, some kind of technology. It better not be an actual wall. Because, hey, you can put past that, like that's what happening in the real world. What should we do? Like, let's put a literal wall there. Yeah, well, go to original video page link from there, support this channel.
Today to gear up for your next nighttime operation. And back to the video. Instead of being a literal wall like its namesake, it's made up of hydroacoustic sensors.
Thank
They're
God.
constructed on the seabed at a depth of 3,000 meters, made up of microphones, sonar systems, and the system claims to have the ability to monitor US naval and submarine movements as far away as Guam, 1,800 miles away. China's building them on artificial islands between the Philippines, Malaysia, and Vietnam, inside disputed territory. And in this cat and mouse game, the American Virginia-class submarine has stealth features to counter it of its own. Submarine stealth is kind of weird, I think. The old original metal hulls returned sonar sound pulses very well, which made them easy to find. So they invented new hull coatings like the anechoic tiles. Anechoic is a fancy sounding word for rubber tiles that they slapped onto the outside. These 100mm thick rubber tiles absorb the sound waves of active sonar and at the same time dampen the sound of interior engines. I feel like I'm making it sound like you could just slap some old junkyard rubber tires onto the side and it would work just as well. These are a little more advanced than that. The size—
Yeah, I was about to say, like, you can't just put simple rubber there, right? Like, friction and everything, like the pressure underwater, like how would they stay on? Like, obviously this is going to be well engineered, let's just say.
Spacing of the holes drilled into the rubber has to be finely tuned to a specific frequency in order for them to be effective. So there's precision engineering going on there. You'd have to drill precision holes into those junkyard tires. But these tiles are prone to ripping off the side of the submarine, and often modern day low frequency sonars can detect even the best anechoic tiles. So the latest technology in sub-stealth is called active tiles. Active tiles are made up of a new material that give off a return echo of a different frequency. This confuses sonar operators that are monitoring it. I'm assuming they see the shape of something innocent instead, like a cow, nothing to see here. The Virginia-class submarine benefited from the explosion of advancements in computing.
So the different frequency means, I'm pretty sure, like, the system won't pick it up. You can't see it on radar or something, right? I'm pretty sure that would be the case.
It was the Navy's first warship built using computer-aided 3D visualization designs. By 2024, they've built 23 of these, with the initial versions measuring 377 feet in length, displacing 7,900 tons. It's the Swiss Army knife of submarines if you enjoy analogies, because it does fleet protection of aircraft carriers, decoy deployment, electromagnetic attacks, or jamming. The Virginia-class can destroy enemy subs and surface ships with their 4 21-inch torpedo tubes. Yes, ballistic submarines have torpedoes too, but they aren't used in the same way, as we'll see. That's why there is a race to advance sonars and countermeasures. And submarines' countermeasures are actually pretty weird. There, said it. They shoot out noise and bubble makers that are like submerged versions of the chaff flares that planes fire off. These distract sensors and torpedoes. They can launch up to 12 Tomahawk cruise missiles from their vertical launch cells at targets on shore, something they've done frequently throughout history, including Iraq, Libya, and the Houthis recently, just to name a few. On top of that, the whole time they're dropping mines, if they want. I didn't even notice them dropping those mines, did you? Not sure how people can say my fear of the water is irrational and I have a phobia and I should just get back in and have fun like everyone else when you got those sea mines out there. The Virginia class traces its roots back to the Cold War.
I was about to say something similar, right? we every time we think like we've littered the ground, like all the land masses, right? Like screwed up one way or another, like deforestation or something. Like at least water, like obviously there's pollution there, but international water is so much like we can't really like even like explore it. Like yeah, we don't even know what's like what is like 10% of the all the water we know what's there. Like 90% is still unexplored because there's so much of it. When we would it's just like intuitive. We just think like okay, at least international waters, at least something like big Pacific and things. There won't be anything dangerous. Like obviously there's like space debris, right? We throw shit in Pacific all the time. That's where it all goes. But because ocean is so big, like you're probably not gonna notice it. But mines, this and that. If humans suddenly disappear tomorrow, right? Some alien species come, they would instantly realize like putting foot anywhere is risky. We need to scan everything because these humans were so paranoid. You know those movies where there's some old guy who's paranoid who like booby trapped the whole house and things. That's us. That's humans. We booby trapped our whole planet because we hate each other. That's what it is. Mines underwater and everything. You can't just go anywhere. If somebody just creates like their makeshift home submarine, thinking international waters don't belong to anyone, just like goes there, pretty sure gonna hit some kind of mine or something that they didn't know that was there or something.
Or when submarines were switching from diesel to nuclear power. In the 1980s, US intelligence got word of a new breed of Soviet submarines, like the Sierra class, that could outperform their Los Angeles class in key factors like speed and maximum depth. These next-generation Soviet subs were built with novel technologies like titanium hulls, liquid metal-cooled reactors. This shocked the American intelligence officers because they didn't think that the Soviets could pull that off for
Let me guess, that didn't happen? Like the Foxbat thing?
another 10 years. But it's like that saying goes, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, I can't get fooled again. That's why in response, the US started development in 1989 of the Seawolf class, to replace the Los Angeles class and beat the new stock of Soviet submarines at their own game. Big, advanced, and massively expensive. The Seawolf class cost an estimated $6 billion in today's money to build each one. They were the most expensive submarines ever built by the US Navy. The Navy could justify the cost though back then of these beasts because the threat of advanced Soviet submarines lurking just off US shores seemed imminent. But the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991 and the end of the Cold War meant that the Seawolf class was canceled after just 3 were completed. This is where the Virginia class comes in. She was envisioned as a cheaper, fast attack sub than compared to the Seawolf. The original cost was only around $1.8 billion. You still could not get me to go underwater in one of those things, even if you put a gun to my head. But admittedly, these subs were becoming more reliable. The Virginia was specially designed...
Especially after that Titanic thing. What is it called? Titan? Titanic or Titan? That Titan thing that happened recently with all the billionaires, right? After that, I don't think so. I don't have phobia of water, but I still don't want to go there. Like, fuck that. Do you want to go in submarine? I know it's like militarized, high-tech thing that nothing's going to go wrong. I still won't go. Like, I'd rather not go underwater.
With shallow littoral zone seas in mind and higher underwater performance. In a post-Cold War, duking it out in the mid-Atlantic Ocean was less of a priority than securing waters close to shore against short-range diesel-electric submarines or asymmetric threats. Shallow waters carry a lot of different considerations for submarines than deep water, changing everything from how submarines navigate or deploy weapons to how sonar even works. Something that really bugs me out about active sonar is if you're a diver just swimming around peacefully close to a submarine, when it sends out an active ping, that ping can actually kill you. If you're lucky enough to be far enough away, then divers have reported severe headaches and hearing problems.
You're kidding me, right? Is that real? Sonar pings, if you're close enough, can kill you. It's literally a weapon. Close range weapon. That shit isn't. I didn't know it was that intense. I mean, when I really think about it now, like, I guess it makes sense. Obviously, the level of intensity you need, the level of range, and oh my god. So that's another phobia. Oh, look at that. You're in boat, like, I don't know, you're on a yacht, right? Now suddenly you decide to take a swim or something. By the way, there's a submarine going there that you didn't know, neither did submarine. There's a ping. That's it, you're dead. Unknown dangers.
Problems when witnessing sonar pulses. As a ground pounder, I feel like it's just another reason we should stay out of the water. The deep blue plays by an entirely different set of rules.
I'm pretty sure shark is also one of the reasons why, yeah. there was okay, I'm pausing too much, but there was a recent news or study, I don't know, which basically said most shark attacks happen at shallow water, basically implying beaches and things. Yeah, that's where the humans are. Like, what are you even talking about? You get wet when there is like rain outside. Yeah, that's probably when you get wet. So yeah.
Officially,
Sharks
it has
is
a
another
dive
reason.
depth of about 250 meters, 800 feet, but we know the Navy just likes to gaslight us with those numbers, and analysts believe that the sub can reach twice that depth in reality at 500 meters. Powering these dives is a 210 megawatt nuclear reactor, which provides all the electrical juice to field its advanced power-hungry systems that we're going to get into. Nom nom nom. Now, why does it matter that you can go to that depth? Operating at different depths allows attack submarines to hide from surface vessels and aircraft, utilizing the ocean's natural sound-absorbing properties to mask their acoustic signatures. Your sonar performance is also influenced by water depth, which can help enhance detection capabilities. When it comes to
Wait a minute, do aircraft have missiles that can actually pierce through water and attack submarine? I don't think it does, right? As soon as it hits the water, the missile would explode. But I think they can like give back the information of, oh, there's that submarine right there. So that's another, that picture somehow painted the whole like that dinosaur level shit, right? People are surviving, there's dinosaurs, flying dinosaurs top like dragon or something that's keeping a lookout. There you go. That's how like shallow submarines would feel, like who doesn't go that deep. Oh shit, there's a plane out there, they might detect us.
Submarines, perhaps there's nothing more iconic than submarine periscopes, right? Something that's 9 meters long in length, just poking out of the water.
Like Fallout 4.
There's something fun, dare I say a little naughty, about being underwater.
Yangtze, what was
and
that?
being out
Yangtze,
like
yeah.
that. Traditional periscopes worked using a combination of lenses, prisms, mirrors, and system of tubes. Today, we've come a long way. They've been replaced by 2 photonics masts and visible infrared and digital cameras on telescoping arms. Without barrel old-school periscopes, this actually has an effect on the submarine's design as well. It allows the control room to be moved down one deck away from the hull's curvature. What all that means is that there's more room for your crew and enhanced situational awareness. But where did the need for such a creature come from? And how does it fit into the Navy's global strategy in the future? Now I ask you to chew on this thought for a minute. Submarines are a relatively new technology. They only first saw wide-scale combat in 1918 in World War I. On the scale of the universe, that's just a blink of the eye. The last ship sunk by an attack submarine in combat was the British HMS Conqueror in 1982 that sunk an enemy ship during the Falkland War. That's why fast attacks have many other jobs. But what about the shipbuilding bottleneck of these? So why, with all of these cool capabilities, why is the Navy slashing the production numbers on the Virginia in half? Part of the problem is that while the Virginia class was first produced as a cost-effective alternative, the continual advancements have added more complexity to the class. New additions have meant that the cost per sub has jumped to around $4.3 billion in 2023. The Navy has kept costs down as much as they could through use of commercial off-the-shelf components where possible, but despite the Navy's goal of producing 2 Virginias a year, shipyards so far have only been able to deliver 1.2. This also has to do with the fact that there are currently only 2 shipyards in the entire United States even capable of constructing nuclear submarines. However, splitting production like this slows down manufacturing and adds costs. The challenge is not insurmountable though. Nothing throwing some cold hard cash at couldn't fix. You know that $95 billion Ukraine/Israel foreign aid package passed in April that everyone's talking about? Included in it is $3.3 billion in investment for the submarine industrial base, especially for smaller component suppliers further down the chain of contractors that are more heavily impacted by changes in production orders. One major difference in modern submarine warfare is that they're designed specifically to hunt and kill other submarines. Submarine on submarine.
All of this, so in like aid packages, like people in Congress like slipping in things like this, like we might need this for aid. We might need submarines, who knows? So like basically slipping in, so like you don't have to worry about any other bill that you need to pass, because military bills passing is like a annoying thing, like that might cause issues and things like, why are you spending this money? So like, oh, by the way, it's for the aid. Let's build submarine builders and like things like that.
Violence. It's a factor that we never really had to consider until recently. As far as I know, there's only been one instance of a submarine sinking another submarine in all of military history. During World War II in 1945, the German U-boat U-864 was patrolling around the chill waters off the Norwegian coast in the North Sea when it was detected, thanks in part to an engine that was misfiring loudly. The HMS Ventura fired off its 4 torpedoes, and then it dived to avoid retaliation, which is a common tactic in submarine warfare. The 4th torpedo of those 3 struck home. All 73 souls on board the German U-boat were KIA, and it remains the only all-underwater bout. This is likely because sensors and weapon seekers weren't good enough until now to make this more commonplace if it were to happen again. Take a look at the large aperture bow sonar.
Basic way of thinking is like, look, air dominance, like that dogfight thing you constantly see, right? That is like complicated enough that we make movies out of it, like shooting down a plane versus plane. There's a chase and dog. There's a reason why we call it dogfight, chase, and everything. Think of that, but like underwater, which is like much thicker fluid than air is, right? Underwater, against things that are not really nimble, right? Comparatively, which is submarines. We basically rely on sensors. We can't even see shit underwater, basically. How are you gonna hit another submarine like that, right? Like it's and you know, like ocean is really big. Like you can't really navigate that accurately. So how are you gonna attack another submarine that accurately? I mean, sure, it's like a all-out war breaks out, and there are like thousands of submarines underwater trying to attack each other. There will be casualties, but not at this level.
Sonar located in the front of the Virginia class. Compared to the older spherical sonar arrays, the horseshoe shape and water-backed design allowed the LAB sonar to be both larger and more sensitive. It has multiple fiber optic sonar arrays along the sail and sides of the hull for all around 360-degree detection. An additional towed array can be deployed at low speeds for better passive listening. These sonars can hear you whisper sweet nothings into your lover's ear. There are several hotspots around the world where submarines are a major factor. You got the Arctic region, the Black Sea, and of course the South China Sea. Russia has a fleet of about 58 submarines in total, while China has 66. But what about when it needs to attack? The Virginia-class subs can get into position and thrive in contested and denied areas that adversaries think are safe from attack. The first versions carry a total of 25 missiles or torpedoes in the torpedo room, plus 12 missiles in the vertical launch tubes. But now, the next generation Block 5 version currently being constructed pack even more firepower into the Virginia class by adding an extra hull section called the Virginia Payload Module. This adds an extra 82 feet of length and 2,400 tons to the Block V. With the VPM installed, the Block 5's cruise missile capacity jumps from 12 to 40, more than tripling its ability to hit shore targets. All this is to say, the US Navy is trying.
Yeah, I still remember that Fat Christian video he made about the badass guy who just literally took a submarine warfare and just like wiped the whole fleet, right, by reloading. So based on that, I can think like 12 to 40, that makes it really lethal, right, with the right hands, like right people, right badass people, right? It can be really lethal that way.
To cram extra missiles everywhere they possibly can right now. My aquaphobia is slowly fading away hearing about how well protected these submarines are. I might even think about looking at one of them from the safety of shore. If you're a ground pounder like me, it probably sounds funny to call submarines boats, but according to the US Navy, submarines are technically ships, but are traditionally referred to as boats. So if you want to sound like you're in the know, call them boats, I guess. Welcome to Task and Purpose, where we get way too far into the weeds. One of the tactical reasons why attack submarines are important for the US Navy is because of potential adversaries, rivals, or whatever euphemism you prefer for China. They greatly improved their submarine detection capabilities in China. And as stealthy as the Virginia-class is, torpedo attacks still expose the vessel a lot more because they need to get closer to fire it. And a detected sub is almost always a dead sub. Hunting submarines is still one of the Virginia-class's primary missions, and it has a few tricks up its sleeve to get the job done. For one, the US Navy has one, if not the best heavyweight torpedoes in the world, the Mark 48 ADCAP at 3,700 pounds. First built in 1972, the Mark 48 has been continuously upgraded ever since, and has almost completely redesigned it in 1988 to counter those fast and deep-diving Soviet subs that I mentioned earlier, which is why when it first designed the ADCAP for advanced capability, its fast speed of over 55 knots means it can outrun any enemy sub. But the Mark 48 has one major drawback. Each ADCAP torpedo costs around $4.2 million. Navy officers like Captain Chris Polk worry that in a true dust-up with a near peer, the Navy would run out of these advanced torpedoes way too quickly. As the program manager for undersea weapons, Captain Polk is heading up a proposal called Raptor for Rapid Acquisition Procurable Torpedo. That's a mouthful of a program, but it aims to develop a torpedo with the same explosive punch as the Mark 48, but it costs $500,000 less. We've recently learned just how devastating minefields can be on the ground in an offensive in the war in Ukraine. In fact, I think it's safe to say it surprised a lot of military analysts how a few thousand mines can be quickly placed and essentially halt an entire army. Would the same be true for the Navy? That's why the Virginia class has the Hammerhead mine, brand new. These little devices are basically a container that rests on the sea floor that holds a modified Mark 58 lightweight torpedo inside. Once the sensor on board detects an enemy target nearby, out pops an active homing torpedo to chase it down. A major initial tactical component to fighting in the South China Sea would be to make that entire region lousy with Hammerhead mines. The weapon has been fast-tracked by the Navy for production since 2020, and it might already be in service. The strategy would be for these underwater drones to covertly place the mines at key choke points, potentially even before a war kicked off. Once the shooting starts, the mines have a communication module on board can actually receive remote activation signals, activating entire pre-placed minefields from afar. Unlike your classic naval mine, the encapsulated torpedo means an enemy vessel doesn't need to get physically close to an enemy mine for it to be effective. In its unmodified version, the Mark 54 torpedo has around a 6-mile range. Instead of coming across the mine comes to you. So I just found out through my research that there's something called submechanophobia, which is a fear of shipwrecks, statues, sea mines, and animatronics that might be found underwater. It's also mundane items like buoys, chains, and miscellaneous debris. There's other people out there on my team who think that
Yeah, but it makes sense, this phobia, underwater phobia, basically, right? And things like like the Cthulhu and that thing doesn't really help. That's that whole thing is like also underwater and shit like that, right? I'm pretty sure there's elements of that. So yeah, all those things, and the like fear of water is water, right? Water is really deep. Look at the Marianas Trench and things like that. Under deep water creatures are also terrifying. So when you combine all that, your rustle mind starts to like your mind amplifies things exponentially. So you end up with something much worse than it is. So the phobia rises basically. Some people amplifies that even more. So phobia basically. So yeah, makes sense, right?
that they're bugged out by human objects underwater. So look, get out of there. What are you doing? The real beauty of the Hammerhead mine is that their targeting systems can discriminate between friendly, enemy, or even civilian vessels, prioritizing enemy submarines or specific types of ships. Unlike traditional mines, the Hammerhead's communication module also allows the mine to be deactivated after the conflict ends, eliminating the risk of ongoing harm that minefields normally carry. The US Navy plans to build
if it relies on signals, can China find a way to hack it and control it their own way, like China or any other enemy, basically, right? Anyone, can they just like find a way to hack it down?
A total of 66 of this class, ensuring the American underseas fleet remains unmatched for decades to come, and that I will never fully trust the open ocean. If you're interested, I just made a video on how the German army is preparing for
Hey, that's a rosy thing, right? German army is rebuilding. Obviously, Germany today is much different than before, but still like shades of the past. It's like haunting thing, right? World War One, World War Two, even before that, Prussia and Prussia's wars. This Germany is very different than that, but still like hearing the word German army is rebuilding is like, what the fuck? Imagine if some World War Two guys, like in 90s or even in the hundreds, who barely has like any, barely holding out, like his memory is not working that strong. He still kind of lives in the past. And suddenly somebody says the German army is rebuilding. He would panic. Or well, that was US Navy's next gen attack submarine is a nightmare for China. If US builds it, I guess that's the new thing now. Is US going to build it? Right? US currently is, at least that's how it feels like with watching all these videos. It's like they have all the technology, they're leading everywhere, but somehow they just doesn't have enough money to build everything, even though they have enough money to R&D and shit. Even things that they probably don't need, they R&D it and like scrap it down or something, or put it in the like some desk, maybe next time type of way. But when it comes to building it, not 2 year, let's just make 1 a year type of way. Okay. Right, but if you like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.